Hi, everybody. Welcome to Resilient Now podcast. We're recording outside today where I am, so it might be a little noisy, so forgive us. I'm super excited you're here. This is a place where you can hear honest stories resilient stories of things that people have gone through that are hard or people who just want to be of service and help people get through things. So this is what Resilient Now podcast is all about. I want to welcome somebody that I'm super honored that you're on our podcast. It's Dr. David Cerling. I don't want to kill that. He has decades of experience. He's going to tell you a decade what he does and what he continues to do. He doesn't need to do what he does. He's somebody who believes in service. I've talked to him about this, and he could just be retired and enjoying, the sunshine, but he's out there in the world helping people, and he's going to talk about that. But before we go there, I wanted to ask you, and I asked, first of all, thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you.
Um, what does resilient now mean to you? I like to ask all my guests that.
Of course, resilience. I kind of a word guy, and I think about the etymology of the word, and that's probably something you have talked about. I mean, the idea of resilience. It's coming from a Latin term that ha kind of has um, to leap or to leap back or to spring into. I mean, it has to do with uh, the notion that something has happened and we need to get back to um, something. I mean, whether it's a sense of equilibrium or what. But so I mean, I think of resilience, not just of well-being, but that a person has encountered challenges, has encountered difficult things, and has kind of made it through. Those difficulties. So that's one thing that I think about when I think about the term resilience. And I mean, resilience now, that phrase, actually, when you said you would be asking me that question, some months ago, I heard a country singer, and I'm not very knowledgeable about country music or so anything, but so this person was unfamiliar to me, but she sang a song with the refrain, "You can do hard things. I can do hard things." And she related as she was talking about this. She was working with her child at the table who was dealing with arithmetic and was having troubles with the problem. And she said, "You can do hard things." And that's what I think of as resilience now. I mean, there are
Yeah.
hard things, but
Yeah.
you can do hard things.
Yeah,
So,
it's funny. It's if I think more kids need to hear that. I never heard that. And so every time there was something hard, I just kind of freaked out and it was really trauma and all that for me. But one day at a time I got through that. So, but we're here to talk about, what you're doing out in the world. And so let's start. Tell us what you're doing. Tell us how you're being of service, how you're helping people.
okay, so I had a career as a clinical psychologist and did that for some 40 years or so. And um it was a general practice, but one of the things that was part of my practice was doing forensic evaluation. So I would be meeting with people who were charged with criminal offenses, and most typically, the question um, was about competence to stand trial or the implication, the use of an insanity defense. And so I was having to make judgments about these. So, but in any case, I was in the jail, several times a month. And while I was there, I really became aware of the extent of mental health issues uh, in that population, in that setting. So I I began my retirement a long time ago, probably 12 or 13 years ago, kind of gradually working my way to shorter and shorter week. But while I did that, I started volunteering out at there's a state prison, Branchville correctional facility. It's about an hour from here, and I would go there once a week and meet individually with men. I'm teaching classes. Right now, I'm teaching classes in a program called the PLUS program, Purposeful Living Unit Serves. I think that's the name, that's the acronym. So
Mhm.
I've been teaching classes there on a variety of subjects, but I think one of the reasons why um, we sort of connected was once I did teach a class. It's called Building Resilience. And
Mhm.
that kind of corresponds to the concern that you've been broadcasting about.
Mhm. Mhm. So why do you go back? So what's going on with these, these people who are in jail? Like, why do you want to give back? What do you see? Can you tell me a little bit about them? Like, what's in you? Because you're retired, you don't have to do this. So why do you want to be of service this way? Tell us about that.
Okay. Well, for one thing, I had, a lot of professional experience, and so it's something that I felt like I could offer. Also, kind of from my own personal worldview and faith. There's a famous line in the Gospels about Jesus saying, when you've given a cup of cold water, when you've gone to visit in the prisons, you've been doing that to me, and that's a an idea that has always stuck with me, and I thought that that's one way for me to um, live out my faith. But I would say this too, as far as why do I do this? I feel that, of course, I do have something to give the men that are there, but I will tell you that I get um, my own. It's spiritually formative for me. I get, I understand myself. I understand my place in the world just a little bit better um, because of my weekly contacts with these men. I feel like I've learned a lot about myself and about people and about the communities that we're a part of. And so I've gotten a lot out of it. So those are all reasons why I've been doing this. I suppose I started probably in about 2016, something like that. And then there was a 2 year kind of hiatus during COVID, but I've been doing it probably, for close to 10 years otherwise.
Do you see them changing? Do you see them? I mean, maybe some of them are going to get out or some of them will be there, but do you see, has this helped, with the classes? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I have seen, um, I have seen real transformation. Now, that's not something you see every day or right away, and you don't know. I mean, it's a long haul sort of thing. But there was one gentleman that I knew for 2 or 3 years, um, and he went in to prison when he was probably 20, 21, and he spent more time in prison than out. He had a very long sentence. And just in the past year, he's out. And I went up to visit him. And um, this is a man who, um, as actually a lot of these men do, they had an encounter with God that they took very seriously. And this was one of them. And he kind of he sort of made his time in prison a monastic calling. And he had a very uh, intentional life of prayer and study and service himself. very influenced by Benedictine kinds of teachings, and he's carried that with him, and he's doing the same where he is now.
So it's a chain effect. It's like a domino effect. It's like you help and they help, and that's amazing. There's definitely a special place in heaven for you. That's for sure. And a lot of you, I think something you said to me when we talked on the phone, you said a lot of these, people who are in prison, they didn't just wake up being bad guys. Like, can you talk about that? How do people wind up in prison? Is it bad childhoods? Like, what's the general, I don't thought of that? Just to
One of
kind
the
of
things, yeah, we did talk about the experience of trauma in that population. There's a survey. This is not really a clinical instrument. It's a research instrument, and you might be familiar with it. It's called ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences, and it's very simple. It's just a 10-point questionnaire. Um, so it's not really used for clinical purposes, but more epidemiological kinds of interests. And the average person in the general population has 1.4, something like that, adverse child experiences. And the mean in incarcerated males in the United States is like 6.5. Um, and again, according to the epidemiological studies that have been done, once you have about four of these adverse childhood experiences, the incidence of incarceration, substance use, um, severe mental health issues, suicide rates, all of these at about a number of four, that becomes a pretty serious thing. So, yeah, I think that all these men, on average, have experienced a lot of trauma prior to their incarceration. And then I don't have to tell you this, prison's a bad place to be.
Yeah.
Uh, there is a lot of trauma that occurs subsequent to a person's incarceration. And again, very dear friend of mine who, again, was incarcerated for a very long time. Um, he was attacked and beaten severely, and could have had lifelong um, after effects from that. Well, and he certainly did have
Of
emotional
course. Yeah.
trauma, but those kinds of things, happen with much more frequency. And also, again, it's a prison setting, and if you think about what do you do when you're looking out for danger? That's a high stress situation, and these cortisol hormones start firing like mad. And if you're doing that constantly because of the setting that you're in, that has pretty significant potential for repercussions, in terms of mental health and physical well-being as well.
Well, thank you for explaining all that to us. It's, they're very lucky that prison is very lucky to get you and your time. And, like I said, you could just be out there just retiring, but you're still being of service. You're still helping people, whatever the reasons you do it. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing about resilience. And I do like to end the podcast by asking people their gratitude. I'm going to ask you your gratitude. What's your gratitude these days?
Um, this morning, and actually most mornings, we live out kind of in the country,
Mhm.
and there's trees all around. There's a lake out there. Um, I'm surrounded by life. Um, there's a book by an author that I really appreciated, Wendell Berry. It's called Life is a Miracle. And I I believe that. You know, why are we here? You know, why is there something instead of nothing? It's a miracle, and I am grateful to be um, alive, and I perceive my life as a gift from God, and so I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful to God for my life. So that would be number one.
Thank you, Dr. Cerling. You are amazing. I want to tell everybody who's listening, resilientnowpodcast.com. You can hear all the speakers there for free, or you can hear them on Apple, on YouTube. I think it's on Spotify as well. We have a resource page. There's, if you have a drinking problem or know somebody who does, or somebody's drinking bothers you, there's a link to Al-Anon. There's a lot of resources on the resource page. Thank you so much for being here with us today. This was an honor and a privilege. And, keep doing that work, that great work that you're doing, that, service. You are an amazing person. And it was really, again, an honor to meet you. And stay resilient, everybody. Bye.
I
Bye.
know.